I've been working hard for Iota, trying to get that Iota shield, I've been working hard for Iota. Why? Because it is my will. Hold that line till we all come together. Centaurs now and centaurs forever. I've been working, I've been striving, but I still got a long way to go. A way to go. Now, this is a story that I want to tell y'all. It's a story about why you should pledge Iota Phi Theta. I'm not saying it's the right frat, I'm saying it's the best frat. I'm going to back it up with actual facts. Now, I'm going to talk about the other four fraternities that you know and love. All the rest of the fraternities out there, no disrespect, I just don't know of you. I pledged in 93, so if you wasn't around, I didn't know, I've never heard of you. So if you've been founded in the late 80s, early 70s, I never heard of you. That's no disrespect, I don't know you. But Iota Phi Theta was founded September 19th, 1963 of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But I'm not even going to talk about Iota first. I'm going to talk about the other four fraternities and give you why you should pledge those fraternities if that's the type of kid you were in high school. Because that's what it all breaks down to, is your childhood and what kind of kid you were in high school. You was destined in your stars with fraternity you were meant for before you even messed up on a college campus. But it takes the great, the best of the best to be Iotas. We don't want the wanksters that everybody else wants. We want the best of the best that are individuals that can stand out in the crowd and lead and not follow. But first I'm going to talk about the Alphas. Alpha Phi Alpha founded in 1906. That's a great organization. They're about their business. Two of my best friends are Alphas, and I love them to death. Omar Davis and James Carter are both Alphas. One pledged undergrad at Kansas State, one pledged grad at Champaign, Illinois. But I'm going to talk about the Alphas in the 90s at Iota chapter, Illinois State University. Those are some down-to-earth brothers. I mean, they really put in work in the 90s. I can't talk about the 2000s and the present. I can only talk about the 90s Alphas. And those are my guys. Even though we got into it a lot, I respected them pound for pound as the second best fraternity on campus. But what it takes to be an alpha man. If you want to talk about the fruit of the gods and what they believe in, I can tell you what Ice Baby means, but that's not for me to tell. What it is they believe in making men and having a men mentality and a business mind. I know a lot of people say, well, they're gay. It's not a gay thing at all. If you understand their rites of passion and rituals, then you wouldn't say it was gay. That's just from an outsider's perspective looking in. You may not understand what you don't understand. But one thing the Alphas always believed in at Illinois State, they always wore shirts and ties. I can remember my freshman year, fall of 92, I was rocking a Pittsburgh Pirates hat with a gold shirt, black shorts, and gold socks. Everybody thought I was already an alpha. I was like, man, I just like the colors. I had nothing to do with an alpha. I knew what an alpha was, but I didn't want to be an alpha at the time anymore. I was just rocking the colors, and I got a lot of slack for that. I just like the way the Pittsburgh Pirates had look with a gold shirt and gold socks and black shorts. But anyway, the Alphas at Iota chapter did their thing. When we won National Organization of the Year in 95 and 96 as Iota Phi Theta, they won the third best chapter in their country at Iota. So we brought the best out of every organization at Illinois State in the 90s. But, if you were about a kid that was usually smarter than the average kid, or a kid that was more reserved and wasn't a showboater or a glower, and then that's probably why you pledged alpha. If you were probably the oldest kid in your family, or your dad or your uncle, you had somebody that was an alpha, you're most likely legacy. But they seek out men who want to better themselves on every level, who want to be in community, because that's what an alpha does. So those are the men that want to be alphas. Those same qualities are true for Iota Phi Theta, but we're looking for a different type of kid. Iota Phi Theta wants the one that doesn't want to follow the pack. To be an alpha, you want to be what you think is the best in the elite network and what you can get out of alpha, not what you can give alpha. And that's what I've always thought. People that pledge alpha is what they can get out of alpha, not what alpha alpha. It's what alpha alpha can do for them, not what they can do for alpha alpha. That's how I've always felt it. That's why it wasn't the frat for me, because I wanted to make a difference and be a difference maker. But that's enough about alphas. Now I'm gonna talk about the twins, omegas and kappas. The reason I call them twins, they were founded hundreds of miles apart, but both in 1911. But they're treated as twins. When people say the best fraternity, they're going to say alpha. Then they're going to say the second best, or they're going to say kappas or qs because of when they were founded. It's an ideology thing when people break down the organizations to GDIs. They think about when they were founded, not why they were founded. So I'll start with the Omega. When they were founded at Howard, and you have to understand why they're called Q Dogs and what their history of those fatigues mean. Their founders and their early organization members trained with Marines. That's why if you see a Marine Semper Fi Dog or Die, a Q will say the same thing. And you have to understand that. So, I don't know their undergrad chapter at Illinois State. I know the graduate chapter was Chi Beta Beta, because that's who they were pledging with when we were in undergrad. I don't know if they actually had an active undergrad chapter, but they were doing some shady records back then. But those were my guys, Cal, Mike Gully, Jason, those Qs were about their business, and I respected them. We got into a lot of scuffles with the Qs, but that's okay. Those are my guys, $100,000. I never fought anybody. I was a little dude. I wasn't trying to fight nothing. I was the fire starter. I always started a lot of stuff, but I never actually swung any blows with anybody. But with Omega Psi Phi, when you see friendship is essential to the soul, they have one of the higher networks than even the Alphas to me. The Alphas got, W.E. Du Bois. They got Martin Luther King. But the Qs, they have Bill Cosby, they have Michael Jordan, they have a lot of famous alumni that give back. They have Steve Harvey, they have Ricky Smiley, they have a lot of people that in powerful places. But what always turned me off about Omega is I can't get down with that humping another dude. That stuff, that's the gay one to me. That's what I can't see. If you want to do that and then you say you're a dog, I'm not a dog. Well, you play Atomic Dog and you just might well, I don't care where you at. You could be at a Catholic, mass, and you play Atomic Dog, they gonna lose their mind. But you think about it, your big brother was probably going to be the Omega. He's the one that the toughest kid in the neighborhood was probably going to be an Omega. Just because, the kid, when the chips were down, the stakes were high, you needed somebody to have your back. That kid probably pledged Omega. He was probably a football player or a wrestler or the best basketball player. He was probably some kind of athlete. But what people don't realize is a lot of Omega men, when they grow up later, become pastors because they're strong men of faith. Just like Alphas. Actually, any Greeks become good ministers because of what they've been through. But a lot of Alphas are ministers, and not a lot of Omegas become to the church, or they're deacons in the church, but they're all involved in the church because they love the Lord. But man, in the 90s, you couldn't tell me nothing. But then I'm talking about the Kappas. Kappa, the pretty boys, they were founded in 1911 as well. But they, if you understand their mentality of being the high yellow pretty boys, that's a stigma in the black community to this day. There's always those kids that you's like, oh man, get your Aldebarge looking self away from me, man. The girls love them, but the dudes was jealous of them. The Cap outside just perpetuated that stereotype to another level. That isn't always been like that. I'm just talking about the 90s. I can't talk about the 1900s. I can't talk about the 2015s. I gotta talk about the 90s, what it was at Illinois State University, what I experienced. When I saw Chip, Dwayne, Peanut, Pat, when I saw all those noobs, Pat was dark-skinned, but he still had that pretty boy image. That image was something that the girls loved, and that's what it was about with them. And then, but they were business-minded too. They were making a lot of money, throwing parties, making a lot of money hand over fist. And you see, that's what threw me off about Kappas. It was when Tasha got shot. I mean, that night, I'll never forget it. I didn't go to the party because I hardly ever went to parties. My bros was there stepping and representing. But, they came back to the dorms and said it was a shooting at the Kappa party. I'm like, a shooting at ISU? This ain't Chicago. This ain't St. Louis. This is Illinois State, Bloomington Normal. But, the Kappas that got into it with some folks. And, the problem is, to the GDIs, gangs and fraternities are the same thing. So, fraternities are positive and gangs for the most part are negative. Gangs didn't always start off negative. One day I'll do a piece about gangs and show you how they were positive when they first started off. But in the 90s, the gangs were on some negative stuff. And when the folks saw these kids in red and white, they thought they were, their enemy. And so, I'm not going to break down the actual facts of how it went down that night because I do know, but it's neither here nor there. It's 20 years ago, so let it go. But when Tasha got shot, that broke my heart because I knew her and I knew her well. And to this day, I still am friends with her on Facebook. But, when she got shot, that changed the game. It was like, this is serious business. We play with people's lives. But the Kappas, they rebounded from that. That was tough. That was tough for everybody at Illinois State. The police, basically treated us all the same. And we all had to deal with having security and paying for it at the Bone Student Center. And to this day, Illinois State still ain't right with black Greeks because of something that happened 20 years ago. But now I'm going to talk about my favorite fraternity outside of Phi Theta at Illinois State, the Wild Eta Chi, Wild Chi. I forgot Chi. I forgot what it is. Chi Beta. I forgot the Sigma's organization at Illinois State. I forgot the chapter, but they call themselves Wild X something. But Phi Beta Sigma, in 1914 was when they were founded at Howard. They were always the little brothers. So they were happy when Iota Phi Theta came along because they weren't the little brother anymore. It's amazing. They're just 3 years apart, 8 years from the Alphas, but they got treated like they were founded hundreds of years later. But at Illinois State, they were the most down-to-earth brothers. Trey, E, Bo, Bob. Them was my Sigmas. Them was my guys. They were the most down-to-earth brothers. In my mind, most Sigmas don't even want to be Greek when they pledge. They were looking for an organization that if they can fill their role, it'd be individuals. And, it's kind of funny because Iota Phi Theta stole that niche from Phi Beta Sigma. If they had it before we came along, but they ended up becoming just like the rest. Phi Beta Sigma used to be about individuality, in my opinion, but then they all wanted to be, the gold mob, they wanted to be the gangster, they wanted to be this, they wanted to be that. But in the 90s, we had a great relationship with them because a lot of the brothers were friends with them, and, my wife was a Zeta, so, I was always around the blue and white. And, I didn't just see Phi Beta Sigma on a local level. I saw them at a national level when I would go with Shawanda to the national organization in Howard and see the Sigmas on a national level. I had mad respect for the organization. And, this is 95. You have to understand, Iota Phi Theta wasn't even NPHC. So, I'm in a sea of blue and white, and I'm rocking the brown and gold hat. They're like, what's that? Why do you pledge that? I was like, because I know something you don't know. And I'm going to get to Iota next. But, it was hard being an outlaw in the 90s. This was before NPHC, before everybody was doing it was cool to be an Iota. I was an outlaw Iota. But the Sigmas, their thing about being a Sigma is they were athletes too in the South. They have Emmitt Smith, they have Jerry Rice. But, they don't get the recognition they deserve as being athletes. A lot of Sigmas are athletes. A lot of Sigmas are businessmen. A lot of Sigmas are pretty boys. They're a blend of everything. But, their whole thing is the family with the Zetas. They sold their whole image on being a family with the Zetas, the brothers and sisters. So when people come looking for that family network, that's why they join Zeta and Sigma, because they're looking for that family. But then came the brown and gold, and this would change the game. And this is what I'm going to break down to you, why Iota is the best fraternity there is, and the reasons why. And once you understand it, then you would truly agree, no matter what organization you pledge or want to pledge, this is why you should pledge Iota. Iota Phi Theta founded in 1963. What was going on in the 60s? In the early 1900s, we were still Negroes, niggas. In the 60s, we were standing up for our rights. We was doing what we were supposed to do. We were outlaws for a reason. We was rebels with a cause. And, when you found it in the brown and gold, it's about that image. It's about that mentality. It's about something that's a difference maker. I mean, we build a tradition, not rest on one. And that means a lot. That may not mean nothing to most of y'all. But that's the reason I pledged, was that motto. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was my birthday, my 18th birthday freshman year. Was playing football over there at Hancock Field. It was Corey, Rico, James, Tony, Ken. Everybody that would later become frat or was already frat. It was my birthday. And if you know anything about me, if you know my story, I didn't become popular in high school till my senior year. I was a nerd my whole junior, freshman, sophomore year. So I became popular my senior year. So when I came to Illinois State University in 92, I thought I was the man $100,000. And originally me and my boys, Omar, James, and Chad, was supposed to go to Morgan State and go to college together. But we ended up going in different ways. Omar went to Kansas State, James went to Illinois State with me, and Chad went to Illinois College. But anyway, it's my birthday, and we're playing football. And after the game is over, I didn't know these brothers knew it was my birthday. They tackled me just like they did as a kid. When I was a kid, they tackled me and beat me down and said happy birthday, and I felt the love. And I was like, wow, these guys are on something different. They actually recognized my freshman year birthday. They didn't know me from Adam. I was just playing football with them. But then I walked into something special at Illinois State in Pick 5D. I stayed in Pickering 520 my freshman year. And for any Iota in the 90s, Pickering 5D should mean a lot to you, because that's where it all began. When James Mason, Tony, Teron, Ron, Rico, Sammy, they all lived in Pickering 5D. And that's something that was special, because they had their own clique their freshman year. They were sophomores by the time I got there. James pledged, the fall of 92 by himself. James was only a semester ahead of us. So he did all this work, by himself. He was vice president of BSU as a sophomore, and he's pledging us, spring of 93. I'm a freshman. So, but Iota Phi Theta was all about something different. When they said building a tradition, not resting upon one, that hook got me, and it rang a chord with me. So as a freshman, it was 6 of us that pledged that freshman and that spring of 93. It was Tony Peoples, he was a sophomore. It was myself, Steed Cross, I was a freshman. My trade, Anthony Berg, was a freshman. Then the quad, Patrick Russell, was a junior. Ronald Amos was a sophomore, and Rico Bell was a sophomore. And we were highly recruited. Any organization could have joined any of the fraternities, but we chose Iota Phi Theta for a reason. It was a master plan, which y'all didn't know in the 90s. We wanted to take over the campus. We wanted to start our own fraternity, and Iota Phi Theta gave us that vehicle we needed to take over the yard. And so a lot of the kids on a lot of campuses have been doing that since then. They're their own friends. They want to take over something. They say, well, Iota Phi Theta gives me that vehicle because it's about individuality. But what you don't know until you pledge the frat, it's also about sacrifice. All these other organizations say they're Christian organizations, but they don't mean it. We have on our shield a cross. You see that we're a Christian organization. I know we have Muslim brothers, we have atheist brothers, but you pledge a Christian fraternity whether you know it or not. That sacrifice cross for James Tony Watson, it means something. That's Jesus Christ you're looking at, and that means a lot. And one day when you get older, if you pledge Iota Phi Theta, you'll find out why you carry $5.55 on you. You'll find out why everything is on the left. Because what I want to speak on is why those other 4 fraternities had a market for so long, because they're founded on something totally different than what Iota Phi Theta is founded on. They're on the right, we're on the left. They're 1784, we're ancient. I'm not going to talk about that anymore, because for those that know, they know, and those that know don't tell, and those that tell don't know. But that's the big difference, and that's what the big problem has been for all these years until 96, when we all came together on one accord and joined in PHC. But that's when I left Iota Phi Theta, believe it or not. Most people don't know that. I still hang around fraternity brothers, but I refuse to ever pay another due to Iota when they joined in PHC because I felt it was a lie to me because I'm an outlaw Iota. It took me almost 20 years to get over the fact that NPHC was a good move. And now I'll become active and financial again, but it took me a long time to get over that because I'm an outlaw Iota. But why Iota? Because only the strong belong. Why Iota? Because it takes a man. Do you understand how hard it is to be made fun of when you know you were right? You know how hard it is to throw a party and only 2 people show up, but then 2 years later you have a packed the Bone Student Center because you believe in yourself and you believe in what you were doing? In the 90s, it was hard for us, but we had a plan. We used the sororities. We used Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Beta, and Alpha Kappa Alpha. The Deltas weren't on the yard at the time, but we made an inroads with the sororities, and we had a pact with them. Whether it was, Chrissy with the Zetas or Venetia with the Sigma Gamma Rhos or the AKAs, all of them at their fashion show. We made inroads with them and they had to love us. We was in your face. You had to love us. And, and after 95 and 96, we had it made. And then that's when we did something that y'all didn't understand. We unleashed the IS mob on y'all. We had 10 centaurs we unleashed on the campus to just take over the campus. There was nothing y'all can do with us. That was the biggest line we ever had at Alpha Death Row chapter. But, I'm not talking about the national organizations. I'm just talking about Illinois State University. That's what this documentary voiceover is about. It's about Illinois State in the 90s. But Iota, or whether you went to Club Iota, whether you went to Soul and Essence, it's funny because, in the 90s, I was part of Black Writers Forum. It was a writing group. We did poetry. And in 2004, I'm at my house in Bloomington in the basement, and one of my frat brothers called me and said, "Did you get Kanye West's new CD?" I was like, "Nah." I said, "You about the kid that worked with Jigga?" They was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Nah, I ain't up on this kid." He said, "You got to get his CD." So I went out and bought the CD. I said, "Why am I listening to Kanye West?" He says, "Not Kanye West you want to hear. It's Let's Never Let Me Down. Your boy James Richardson, James Ivy's on there." I said, "He's not a rapper. He's a spoken word artist." I said, "I know, but Kanye did a track with him and Jigga." And I was like, "Really? James Richardson from ISU?" Iota Phi Theta gave him his first break when he had our Soul and Essence Cultural Expo, Shackles and Chains. And now this man is a world famous entertainer. But he got his start because we believed in giving people chances, and we was about art, and we was about taking chances and taking risks. And and that it wasn't just me. It was my ship. Tony Peoples was more creative than I'll ever be, and he's in the entertainment business. He goes by a different name, so y'all probably know who the hell I'm talking about. But it's like, Iota gave me my chance as an artist, as a businessman. I was a marketing major, so I was always the money man. I always make money for Iota Phi Theta. That's all I did was make money. But, I didn't go to the parties. I didn't step a lot. I was only in 2 step shows. But everybody filled their role. And that's what Iota Phi Theta lets you do. You fill your niche and you fill your role. Everybody has their place and every place has their role. We don't need everybody to be steppers. We don't need everybody to be pretty boys. We don't need everybody to be animals. We don't need everybody to be businessmen. We let you be you. You do what you want to do. If you do you and I do me, we will be okay. And that's Iota Phi Theta Alpha Death Row 101. In 96, we had more money than nationals. Our chapter won National Organization of the Year 2 years in a row. We had more money than the national organization. When we did our death march, our death step, the death axes, the dip with the axes, it got banned at MPHC because we got, brother cut his hand. But that step show in 95, go back and Google that step show, Alpha Death Row Iota Phi Theta 95 step show. Hands down the best step show ever done. Second best was 97 with IS Mob. But that 95 show was when we said, okay, the Iotas can throw parties, the Iotas about their business, but can they step? I told him when I was Polaris, I said, I don't care how much it costs, we gonna win this step show by hook or crook. I said, I'm putting all the money into this step show. We gonna win this step show. We spent more money on that step show than we actually won in prize money. I think we only won $500. We spent about $1,000 on props and axes and uniforms. I said, we will win this step show. And we rocked it and we won. But we had a lot of internal struggle. Just like any great organization, we had internal strife that I'm not even going to speak about. But everybody knows the chapter history. But now you're thinking there as a freshman, a sophomore, junior in college at Illinois State, why should I pledge Iota? This is why I'm telling you. If you're an individual, if you have dreams and aspirations of being in control of a frat instead of just being a t-shirt wearer and another number, then Iota Phi Theta is the frat for you. So I'm about to end this, but I'm going to end it with one of my favorite chants. I've been working all day long and I don't know what to do. But when I cross those burning sands, I'll be true to you. Don't want to be no alpha, don't want to be no kappa, don't want to be no sigma, don't want to be no Q, no Q. All I want to be, baby, is a theta man for you. Screaming, oh, Iota, Iota Phi Theta. Screaming, oh, Iota, Iota Phi Theta.